The ANC has cautioned its Northwest members looking to snub the second leg of the elective conference that they could face expulsion. The two-day 9th conference is going ahead at the Rustenburg Civic Centre. Newzroom Afrika's Pelane has been closely monitoring developments for us and joins us now live. Good afternoon, Pelane. Now, we've had a number of addresses from the NEC members. They spoke earlier on that the delays were caused by the lack of accommodation for some of their members due to the summers that are taking place in the conference, or rather in the province. But it seems as though there was quite an emphasis on those not attending and those having not submitted apologies that they could face expulsion, but they also seem quite mum as to what the consequences will be.
Well, earlier on, actually, when they were speaking about it, they came to us and gave us an indication that as far as they are concerned, there has been precedence. Back in the 1956, when the Freedom Charter was adopted, and those who left the plenary at the time, they were later expelled and were told later formed the PAC. And of course, in the late 70s, the same thing happened when there was a decision of conference. Others decided to leave without before the conclusion of the conference, and they were later expelled. And as far as the NEC members are concerned, they do feel that particular precedent could very well repeat itself if the members of the African National Congress who are deployed by their branches, rightful branches and not individuals, if they are not here to conclude the business of conference. Therefore, disciplinary actions will be taken against them harshly, and that may include expulsion. Those are some of the things, of course, that they are talking about and believing that they could very well happen should there be an instance that they are not coming here. So they're still hopeful that because the program is still going to be running at least until around midnight, that some of those may have heard through the media and what the processes could lead to. Therefore, they could be able to come here and finish the business of conference, and that includes the nomination of course, the additional PEC members. Talking about additional PEC members, let me bring in Douglas Nkowen. You would know him. Douglas, of course, is the national spokesperson of COSAS. He was just telling me that with the PEC that is coming in here, they believe through the nomination young people should be reflective.
No, that is true actually, because what we are here for is to witness the transgression of generations, to say that so much as very old people have led the ANC for quite some time now, we want to see new blood forming part of the structures of the African National Congress. And I think this is an argument, if you have followed, which we raised at the policy conference of the African National Congress, to say that the only way to renew and rejuvenate the African National Congress should be to follow the leadership, which was in fact the generation of 1945 of the ANC Youth League, which said that so much as we are tired with the leadership of the ANC, which is very old and irrelevant at that point, the only time we can see the renewal of the African National Congress and the visibility of the ANC 28 years later into democracy, to make sure that service delivery happens in our communities, is to get young people into the ranks of the African National Congress. That is why we are here as the Progressive Youth Alliance, with a firm belief that we are going to make sure that we see this generational integration. And, amongst many people who, in fact, recent graduates of the ANC Youth League should form part of this PEC, and many other young people should form part of the PEC of the African National Congress, so that the challenges which are raised on the ground by young people, since the majority of the people in South Africa are young people, should be responded adequately by very young people who we believe should form part of the Provincial Executive Committee of the African National Congress.
Are you perhaps of a firm view when talking about the litigious way that the ANC has now become forever in court, people who are discarded going to court? As the young people of the African National Congress, does this concern you or derail the issue around the unity and renewal and rejuvenation that you are now talking about?
I think both the media and society would have already acknowledged the fact that anyone who has taken the ANC to court is an embarrassment not only to himself but the organization itself, because that portrays each and every member of the ANC who takes the ANC to court as someone who is in the ANC for selfish reasons, for greedy purposes, to say that if it is not me, and then it means we must not continue. The ANC does not belong to anyone. There is no one who has got the birthright to the African National Congress. It is just people failing to understand and admit that in these processes we're not in charge. Because remember, here we are in a conference of branches. It means that when you come here to contest the African National Congress, you must have convinced the branches of the African National Congress. And if you have failed to do that, I don't see a reason why you should rush to court, because courts are not the African National Congress. That is why we end up with monologues in society that the ANC has captured the courts and what's not, because people tend to contest elections in the ANC through the courts of law. The courts of law should serve justice to the people of South Africa, not interfere in politics internally of the African National Congress. So anyone who has went to court to say that they want to interdict the processes of the African National Congress are people clearly who do not understand the African National Congress. I mean, growing in the African National Congress, in the last 4 to 5 years, we have always known that the ANC in Northwest does not have leadership. We came here, we elected leadership of the ANC Northwest, and our preferences did not make it, but it does not make those who are elected less of leaders, because they have managed to convince branches of the African National Congress subsequently managed to be elected. And if there is in any form of irregularity of processes, rigging of processes, I think that is a matter which should be discussed and exhausted internally in the African National Congress before people run to the courts of law. The courts of law should take their time in finding justice for the people, for the victims of rape, for people who are victims of crime. Just imagine a person waking up today because he's a judge and is heading to the Constitutional Court to preside over a matter of the African National Congress, when that person is supposed to be discussing serious issues which should see the transformation of our judiciary.
Definitely. That's Dr. Phakgadi, very passionate about what he's saying there, of course, as a spokesperson of COSA.